Hello, everyone. It is Thursday, June 18th, 2026, I believe. And just like just like that, it's 2026. And just like that, it's summer. Summer means fun, and you can't have fun without the fun hole, as Kathy and I were talking about as we prepared here. So the fun hole is the subject of today's guest's classic novel, The Cipher, and which I have right here. And we're going to be
I
talking about
have
that.
one too. I have
Yeah,
one
look
too.
we are we are fun hole twins. Don't get too close. Let's put it too
Oh
close.
yeah, don't let him touch. Don't let him
Stay away for your
touch.
own safety and the safety of
That's
your life.
right. That's
Stay away
right.
from the screen. Stay away from the fun hole. And we're going to talk more about Kathy and the fun hole in just a second. I want to introduce a couple of items that I always forget. Take care of a couple of housekeeping things, and we'll get right to it. Let me introduce the show. This is Nighttime Logic. Nighttime Logic is the part or parts of a story that are felt but not consciously processed. And it's also the name of today's program. You can support the show by hitting, I guess it's like or subscribe over on YouTube, telling a friend, in addition to all the other ways. Love it if you could do that. I often forget to introduce myself. My name is Daniel Braum. I am the host of the show. I'm also an author. My latest books are Phantom Constellations, Strange Tales and Ghost Stories. It is perfectly safe to approach. No fun hole. No, you will not lose your limbs by approaching this book. Although this one might be more dangerous. Creatures of Liminal Space for Jack and Press. So that's me. I just have one more shout out to some supporters of the show. I want to have a shout out to Scotty Milder, author, educator, and filmmaker, supporter of the show. And he's also the host of the Horror from the High Desert podcast. You can catch his next episode on the 26th of June. That's coming up. And Scotty's guest will be NJ Gallegos. So I'd like to introduce, I think everyone knows who Kathy is, but let's read the introduction. Kathe Koja writes novels and short fiction and creates and produces immersive fiction performances, both solo and with a rotating ensemble of artists. Her work crosses and combines genres, and her books have won awards, been multiply translated and optioned for film and performance. She is based in Detroit and thinks globally, and you can find her at KatheKoja.com. Welcome back to the program, Kathy. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be back. I'm
It's
trying to sit in like a sophisticated way so you don't see the closet.
oh yeah,
That's full of crap, right?
that's what sound checks and camera checks are for. Yeah,
I
right.
know, and it didn't even occur to me because we were talking about before we started. We were talking about cats in the garden and chainsaws and why development is a bad thing, and we were all caught up in that. And then I suddenly realized, ew, you can see my supply closet.
And now
So
you've
now
got
you can't.
now you've got the word fun. You've got fun in the frame, right outside the frame
Right,
of my
right.
camera frame. Yeah, is the laundry and all the clutter I shoved off my desk. So
And that sign is it's very dear to me. It was created by an artist friend who lives in Ohio now, but she and I made an event in Detroit in a gallery in January 2020, right? And it was called
wow,
The Future is Fun. And it was kind of a double edged statement. We were trying to point out that because the installation was created from literally garbage, stuff that she had like curb picked in her neighborhood. It was right after Christmas. So there were many, empty boxes of consumer electronics and
mm,
packing material and all this other crap. And so we brought all this crap into the gallery and set up this installation for people to play with the
mm,
garbage. And everybody came and played with the garbage, and it was great. And the idea was our future is uncertain, but we still have to have fun. We still need to create moments of joy and community. And yeah, it was fantastic. And then then COVID came. and
Oh,
just shut everything down.
so that was right before COVID then.
It was in January. It was actually right around my birthday, which is in the beginning of January. And so it was right after that. And yeah, that kind of shut down our performances and such. But I saved that sign because it reminds me every day that we want to create fun, and especially now when things are very
serious, to say the least.
Serious, right. The idea that we need avenues to be able to have joy, to be able to create, to be with friends, to make friends and be in community, that is more precious than ever. And we really need those things to keep us going and to remind us why we keep going at all, right? Your entire life can't be like grim, or what's the point? So yes, I'm a big proponent of fun.
Well, when I think of you, I do think of fun in the most non-sarcastic way. I think it's just always there in our conversations or our communications, no matter how quick. So that message is received, and I think that message is, I think it's important. It's so important in the best of times, and it's so important in the worst of times. You hit it right on the head, and I think what you're talking about is also so close to the heart of the Cipher as well. I mean, the Cipher, you spoke about, we were talking about the fun parts of the book. I'm like, well, it's all it's all grim, or it's all fun. But yeah, it's great to know that you have community and art, and just coming and having it come from, I just think something poignant of it, having it come from the quote unquote the garbage. One person's trash is another person's treasure, and just a matter of perspective. I don't want to go too much further without just saying congratulations on the reissue of the Cipher. Was it released in 90? Was it 91 or 92?
It first came out in 91, and then Meerkat Press did a more contemporary reissue, and then Dead Ink, for their new Ruins series, has brought it out, and will also be bringing out a reissue of Skin a little bit later this year. So
I can't wait for that. That was my first book of yours that I ever had.
And one of the greatest things that Dead Ink has done is the bookmark that says, I stuck my hand in the fun hole, and all I got was this unsealable wound, right? Yeah. Which I thought was so clever.
They've done a great job. True. A great job promoting it. It looks like Becky over there gave me some nice.
Yes. I love those pins, and you will get reactions if you wear. Well, believe it, if you wear them, if you wear a pin that says the fun hole, you will get reactions in public, and people will ask you, "What is that about?" I know, because I wear it.
At least the public. I'm fortunate that the public that I hang out with, and this is no joke. So I've been doing a lot of traveling, doing a lot of book events lately, and on both coasts of America, people know this book, and people are reading this book, and people are excited about this book. So it's great. It's great that this book, after so much time, is still both vital in the minds of readers, and it's also inspiring curiosity, reaching new audiences. How are you feeling today? Like literally today, like how do you feel about the book, and how, if at all, has your feelings or relationship to the book changed over the years?
The second half of the question first. It has changed. My ideas and feelings for the two main characters, Nicholas and Nakota, have undergone sea change through the years, but I hesitate to talk about that too much, because my opinion matters just as much and as little as anybody else.
I must press that. I mean, I'll leave off if you really don't want to, but is it something you don't want to talk about?
And I'll tell you why. Once upon a time, I was doing reading. I think it was probably of Bad Brains. And a woman came up to me afterwards and wanted to talk to me about the book. And she had really interesting ideas and said, oh, I thought it was about X, Y, and Z and stuff. And because I was so ignorant, I said, oh, no, well, actually, it's about, and she just, it's like there is no way that what she had gotten out of that book was wrong, or her explanation was equally valid to my own. And I thought, oh no, what you have, and then then it was ruined. Then I ruined it for her. So it's like, okay, nothing that I say should have any more weight than what anyone else thinks or receives, from the book or thinks about. Because when I go to read a book, right, I don't have any that I can show now because they're all for research. And if anybody out there rides motorcycles for fun, do hit me up because I need to talk to you. But reading a book or a film or any creative endeavor, you're bringing to it all your own associations and your feelings and the things that you like and hate and whatever. And so what you get out of it is equal to what you put into it. So for the author or the composer or anybody to come along and go, oh, that's not right, or it really was meant to be this. Boy, I don't ever do that anymore because that woman showed me
Okay.
that's just wrong.
I didn't realize
That's
you
just
had.
wrong.
I mean, that is a super interesting story. I mean, and it's thank you for sharing like your evolution on that. I mean, it's yeah, I guess it's a good thing to tell to yeah, I think yeah, I would be on your side to have yeah, an artist shouldn't necessarily tell someone what they got out of it is wrong. To me, I think that's a badge of honor to have someone see something in the work that I don't
100%.
necessarily see. Even if sometimes it's challenging. Like I once experienced that in like I was so um, tempted because they had saw something that was the exact opposite of what I had intended, and like I never told them they were wrong because it is my belief that if you see something in there, it's in there, and
It's in there, right?
maybe more than once that's happened to me. I mean, I think one of the most difficult times is yeah when I gave a reading about something that I thought was going to be atmospheric and ghostly and scary, and it had the room in stitches. And I do not write comedy. I do not write comedy. I'm like, okay, tried to scare you, but you're laughing. I guess you're not laughing at me, but
Well,
that's
and that's a really interesting dichotomy too between being afraid and laughing. Those are two things that are almost. I have a lot of respect for any writer who can do both
yeah,
because that is very difficult.
it
You can
sure is.
depress people all day long. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. I mean,
Yeah,
you can depress people. You can titillate people, you can exalt people, you can do these things, but both humor and fear come from that lizard brain. And so I mean everyone can tell a story of laughing at an inappropriate time and the laugh just jumped out of you, right? It's like, whoa, I didn't mean to do that, but there it was. It was a response, a spontaneous response. The same with fear, being suddenly viscerally afraid of something. You're not thinking, you didn't think yourself into it. You're just there. And so being able to, excite both those states it's very difficult. And people who can do both or who can do one or the other, I'm hat is off.
well, I will tell you, I do want to press your opinion on your characters, but without doing the soft press on that, I will say that the fun hole scared me. And the reason why it scared me or scares me is the characters' reactions to it. Starting just from that they named this liminal, numinous, unexplainable, dangerous thing, the fun hole. And just their sarcastic, slacker-esque, somewhat flip, but very intense relationship to it, just drives this book with an intense velocity of just like, oh no, stay away from it. Oh no, what's going to happen next? Where did you start out with the characters, and where are you now? Did it change for the better or did it change for the worse? So if you really want me to shut up about it, I'll move
Well,
on.
I'll talk about Nakota specifically because I think she did always and still does get a lot of hate, and I
From
don't
you
know.
or from readers?
From
Really?
readers, and people don't like her, and they react to her, but
Mm,
they do not. Most people do not like her, and they think she's the villain and the antagonist,
wow.
and yeah, I did not feel that then, and I definitely do not feel that now. I
Me
feel
either. Yeah.
that she is whatever else she is dead serious about wanting to create and wanting something, and she never lies. She never lies about what she wants, what she's going to do. She's manipulative. She is many things that kids don't be that, but she's not a liar. And in some ways, in many ways, she is more truthful and forthright than Nicholas, who knows very well after a certain point in the story that this phenomenon or whatever, this fun hole, doesn't function without him.
Mm,
And perhaps not the most narratively interesting thing to do, but the most humane thing to do would be maybe to start walking and don't
right.
stop and never come back, right? It's like, if this
That's
thing needs me to
the
function,
unfun book. The unfun hole is like,
well,
this is
right, then it's like, and
Chris.
then they all left,
And
right?
they
And
all
that was
left,
the
like
end
the
of it.
haunted house, like get out of the house. It's haunted. Sorry, we can't live here.
Right, and they all just move out. And you go,
End of
well,
book.
that's
Sorry.
why the character Venice, I have always appreciated her because she is the person in the story who finally reaches a point and says,
Yeah,
enough, I'm done. I'm done.
yeah. There's a point where she's just like, this is crazy. I do not.
I
I
don't need
do
this.
not like crazy. It's like her artistic front drops. Like you can tell she's sort of one of the hanger-ons of the art crowd. And then she's just like, this is real. This is dangerous. Like, are you a? She just sort of represents in like the wheel of the pantheon of human reactions that I see these characters being. She suddenly becomes a certain perhaps mainstream voice of just like, I am a fish out of water, or
Well, right, I
I
don't need this. I just
yeah.
don't need this. And I think, um, and I'm trying to remember who Rudy Rucker. Rudy Rucker wrote a thing about science fiction stories where people would be saying, "Oh, explain to me what you mean," and that's
Ugh,
very interesting. And he's like, "Nobody in my life does that. They're all like,
ugh.
shut up. We don't care about your thing. Let's go, grab a beer. Let's go, to the movies." He said, "I think it's more interesting narratively to have characters react like that and not be like." Oh, tell me more about your theory of the 16 moons.
Oh, I'm
I
so
don't
glad.
care.
I'm so glad that you're bringing that up because that is a real appeal. I mean, there's a lot of appeal to me about this book, but maybe if I had to put who's my first place ribbon, it is the fact that you presented this concept and there is perhaps little to none of that going on. Maybe there's like a page where someone just sort of like says, "Oh," but maybe it lasts a page because it's sort of like, okay, it's part of human minds to think things. But this is not about a book about like what is this creature? We must understand it and then conquer it, and that's the same tired. At least at this point in my journey as a reader and writer, that's the same tired plot line, and the fact that you have presented this concept, this fun hole, this experience, this phenomenon, with when a supernatural element or just a story element is free from having to be supported by the exposition or the world building or the ecology of the supernatural. All things we genre people love, perhaps in other books in other ways, the book is free to be something else. And that's why it both is to me science fiction, fantasy, and horror. And without being pretentious about it, it's more than that. It still has all of the strengths for me of genre by having these amazingly innovative speculative elements. But for me, I think it sidesteps most, if not all, of rubs me the wrong way about genre, where it's not about conquering the unknown or the supernatural. It's about how is the unknown and the supernatural a catalyst, or how does it influence people's lives, these human stories. And that's why I'm shocked to hear that people were rubbed the wrong way these characters, because these characters are so interesting. And maybe I think sometimes, at least in my life, if I find myself hating something, or if I find myself averse to something, I try to ask myself, and this is not judgment on anyone who hates Nakota, but I try to say, well, what is it stimulating in me? What is it stinging? Like, is there something in there that is causing me that reaction? Is there something about myself that I don't want to face? Is there something in there? And I think it's a testament to your characters that people have strong reactions to them. I mean, I'm just learning now that people had these strong reactions. I was prepared to say that I think the testament to the characters is how they're enduring. You know, like these are back in the early 90s, and they're still recognizable and vital today.
And I think that's why people responded to the book when I wrote it, and are responding to it still, is what you're saying about the non-explained mystery. There is something about this fun hole, about this phenomenon, about the challenge and the danger of it, that is universal, and it also taps into a very old fear. Our fear of falling, our fear of the dark, our fear of the unknown, our fear of something that's happening that we can't control or get a hold on. And that's a constant that will always be.
Both the fear and the flip side of that, which I think I'll say is awe and the curiosity. And you present all those emotions. Yeah, there's a fear. I think it's great because the characters are so busy being in that state of awe and curiosity that, at least for me as a reader, I'm like, don't get too close, or you're going to do what? You know, there's an escalation of exploration of it that is absolutely terrifying to this.
Because it's so reckless, right? It's just so reckless, not just to themselves, but if you don't know what is going to happen, that means you don't know what effects it could have on you, on the people around you, and I will say this, there is a moment of exploration or experimentation that I really do not like anymore. And if I could change it, I would take it out. And I would take the mouse. I would take the mouse out of there. Okay. I don't like that. I don't like it at all anymore. And I think
fair enough, right? But
I think partially because using animals in horror, in weird or disturbing fiction can be, and in crime dramas and whatever, the animal is so often a stand-in for, like, this person's a bad person because they shot a dog. I mean, of course they're a bad person if they shot a dog, but you know what I mean? The animal has no intrinsic value or use to the story. It's not considered a character. It's just like a little placeholder. And every time I see, that's why I swear by Does the Dog Die? And I look up everything I watch before I watch it on Does the Dog Die, to see if there is animal cruelty or to see if there is animal death, because I am over that. I don't ever want to see that. I don't want to see animals used as pawns. And so if I could, I would take that out.
I'm with you on my reaction to it. I mean, I said, did you see the movie? What was it? Wake and Fright, the 1970s. All right, just skip it. Don't ever see it. Then,
Okay.
An old Australian film that surprised me with some animal cruelty. But look, your feelings are yours, and that is to be respected. But I guess in furtherance of your values, I have to say that sometimes. I think there is a verisimilitude there, without even judging Nakota for that, and without even judging it, that Nakota can still be an interesting character, and she can still be a Rorschach by presenting it how you feel about that. I think there's a psychological reality to it. I think people, whether it's naive or immature or not, like, I mean, you spoke about Nakota being honest. What's scary and honest is how she's like, yeah, let's put let's put Malcolm in there. You know,
She doesn't care. She really doesn't care. And
so at least she's not being, I don't think she's being, although it is cruel to an animal without the same agency that we have, but in her defense,
she'd put anyone down there. I mean, it does, right. It is.
She put the art school dude. She'd probably
specifically wanting to hurt an animal.
She'd put herself, but
yeah, no. And in contrast, there's a moment in Skin where Tess and Bibi are. This is in the part of the book when they are Bibi the dancer and Tess the metal artist are terribly at odds, and Bibi is doing these performances that are becoming more and more and more dangerous and frightening. And at one point, someone, the animal masks are used in the performance, and someone says, "Oh, they were afraid that we were hurting real animals." And Bibi's like, "Yeah, well, maybe we'll kill a dog." And Tess says, "You would never do that. What are you saying?" And she's like, "No, of course I would never do that. I would never hurt a dog. Are you crazy? Of course not." So it's like the difference there. She's saying this for effect, or she's saying things without even thinking what she's saying. But the actual Bibi would never hurt an animal. She would. That's just not something she would do. Nakota would put anybody down there. Yeah. It doesn't matter. You know, they're insects, they're mice, they're people, they're Malcolm, whatever. Down you go.
And that's why she's a powerful character and has, I guess, a range of reactions to it. We're about the halfway mark in our show.
Oh, we are. Wow. Okay.
Would you like to read from the book for us?
I would like to read. I was looking for the funny parts because there are actually one person in the long history of this book came up to me at a reading and said, "This is the funniest book I've ever read." And I said, "Oh, I appreciate you so much," because nobody ever thinks it's funny, but I think it's funny. I think there are moments that are very.
I'll turn it over to you and introduce where we are in the book, and turn it back to me when you're done. So here is Kathe Koja reading from the Cipher, the funny parts.
The fun parts of the fun hole. This is a moment about halfway through the book where things have started to happen. Things have already started to get out of control. And one of the ways that Nicholas, one of our two main characters, handles the terror and insanity of this phenomenon is by his constant deadpan humor. And at this moment, what is happening to him? He is, I believe he is having this is when some of the people, the art school people, want to come and look at the fun home. And Nicholas says, and the whole book is in his voice, so this is him talking. "I took the predictable way out. I told them they could visit, but that was all. If they took even one step toward the storage room, that was it. They were gone. They agreed with a haste that was suspicious, even to me, and I fool easy. Throughout the day's work, I speculated on that. What the fuck? I said to Malcolm. Don't move your lips, for God's sakes. How many times do I have to tell you not to move while the plaster's drying?" Malcolm's making this death mask face of Nicholas. So obsessively close in his inspection that if I looked, and I could hardly help it, I could see the miniature veins in his eyes. When I was again successfully immobilized, he slouched back across the room to sit smoking a succession of his horrible cigarettes while I sat straight-backed as a mummy, the usual unbearable itch begun in the small of my back, waiting for the plaster to dry. "The whole thing blew them away," Malcolm said. "Too bad not for real, huh?" Although this was not true, or not entirely. I had nothing personal against any of them. I just wanted them to go away and take Malcolm with them. "I mean, it really blew them away. They can't stop talking about it." "Yes, I noticed. But to say it wasn't worth his inevitable scream about the plaster, so I didn't. Now my hand, he has a hole in his hand at this point. Not good. My hand was throbbing too in a more than usual way, and I rubbed it against my thigh in an empty search for comfort, wishing it wasn't so cold in the flat, wishing Nakota was there, wishing I was alone. By the time he freed me from the plaster, I was so jittery with irritation, the very swish of his hair was enough to make me want to stuff him headfirst down the fun hole, without so much as a cheery farewell. And of course, it was just then that the door opened to reveal the grinning triumvirate of Malcolm's friends. All of them, God help us, wearing sunglasses in the snow. First of all, they wanted to watch the video. This is a video that's been created by a camcorder being put down the hole. And it just as a sidebar, someone asked me recently, what would this book be like to right now, with the internet and with phones or whatever. I cannot imagine how much worse things would have become if people were live streaming the fun hole. Let's just be glad that did not happen. Okay. First of all, they wanted to watch the video, and when yelling from the bathroom where I scrubbed my face, the only pleasure I was likely to have all day, I told them no. They said they wanted to interview me about my feelings. Oh, right. Even for them, this is going too far. What next? A documentary? And the only feelings I have right now, I said, slamming out of the bathroom, my stiff jaw still outlined in a stinky ribbon of mingled Vaseline and plaster residue. The only feelings I have, you don't want to know about. What the hell do you mean, interview me? Interview me for what? Your personal archives? Your diaries? Nobody answered. I could feel in my chest a pleasant bubble of rage, freely mingled with self-pity. This is Nicholas's home, is the island of self-pity. And an overriding regret that Nakota was not home to chew them the new assholes they deserved, side by side with the drier knowledge that she would far more likely egg them on. Either you weren't paying attention the other day, I said, or you're stupid, and I would hate to think anybody could be that stupid, even friends of yours, to Malcolm, who froze in the act of lighting another cigarette to give me a look less piqued than surprised, as if one of the drying, floor-bound blobs of plaster had spitefully bitten his toe. And he, their benign creator, fathom for yourself the sheer ingratitude. This is not a game, I said, my hand on the refrigerator door, so angry I could barely remember what the hell I was doing there. When in doubt, get a beer. It can't help, but what can? Isn't that some fucking art school field trip? This is the weirdest motherfucking thing you will ever see. And if you tell as much as one single person about it, if you even tell them where this building is, my voice rising, I had absolutely no idea how to follow that one up. I had no prior experience in making threats that were meant to be taken seriously. So I slammed the refrigerator door as hard as I could, sending a cracked and empty juice jar and a flutter of outdated coupons to the dust-gummed floor below. Don't make me tell you again, I said, and marched to the bathroom before my traitor face could display the lunatic bray of laughter fighting to blow free. As I closed the door and jammed both faucets on, a pure continuation of silence, I thought, so of course the first thing they do is run downstairs, right? Which made me want to laugh even harder. So you see, they're having lots of fun there. It's just a laugh a minute in that little storeroom.
Thank you so much for that reading.
Oh, you're so
before we go back to the conversation, I just want to say welcome to people who have tuned in. I think some birds have escaped the fun hole and have joined us. Hello to everyone out there. Thank you so much for that reading and for delivering Nicholas's voice into our conversation here. One of the things that I found so brilliant and so compelling about Nicholas as a character is that sort of slacker, deer in headlights stoicism, and maybe from reading it back then and reading it now, looking at it now, I see what's so brilliant about the way Nicholas is presented that I may not have seen back then, maybe from being too close to it, maybe because I either was all those characters, like maybe we've got a little bit of each of those characters in all of us. Maybe I know a little too many of those characters, but
there's that too, right?
Right? There's definitely that. I mean,
and I will also say that people throughout the years, people have come up to me and they are convinced that they know where this takes place.
Yeah,
and they all have their own idea, and everybody's right? I mean, every single one of those people are right.
Everyone's art school. I mean, that is what's so hysterical. I guess because I was just like I was too busy crying and just like about how how sad for the art school posse. Because I lived through that. I saw those people, and what's great about Nicholas is how there's an unspoken tragedy that he's just sort of like same shit, different day. He's still alive, but he is in many ways like this walking wound, and by the different people he visits after contracting the hole in his hand, he visits a character Nora, who wasn't an ex fling, but an ex or an old friend, who's now gone out to the sort of burbs or the quote unquote rural place. And then he's got this Randy and this Malcolm and the art school pretentious people in his life. And I thought it was just interesting that we're defining Nicholas by the contrast of who he isn't and maybe who he was or who he could have been. And maybe that's something that we all maybe who you are and where your outlook at is like, yeah, like maybe in another world Nicholas could have been a Malcolm, or in another world,
or he could have been,
Nora.
many different things. The last line in the book is a quote from Ben Heck that says, "Love is a hole in the heart," and it's a useful exercise to try to look for the love in this book, because on the one hand there is, I don't know if there is a word for it, for the attachment and attraction between Nicholas and Dakota. There is something there for sure, but what it is, don't ask me. But
I think I see love everywhere in the book, and I see, without knowing the name for it.
Where do you see it?
I see it in maybe that Ben Hecht quote really shines the light on it. I see it in the absence, or at least in the absence in the awareness of the two characters. How they are tragically and inescapably drawn and smashed literally into each other, and they're both in each other, and with the fun hole they're trying to fill a void that's unexplained, at least to the readers. And maybe if it's not love, it's something, it's something close to love. It's something that's holding the space where love used to be. But love was present even by its absence, or perhaps perversion of it, throughout the entire book, in the best of ways for this reader.
I love that idea that it's present by its absence, or it's wearing a different mask, or it's manifesting in a different way. But there's a great quote, I don't know who said it, who said, "Artists don't create for the like of art." And that's so true. People are willing to go to enormous lengths to create things. I see it in volunteer work as well. You could not pay people enough money to do the things that people will do for love. There isn't enough money in the world. But love is a very strong and driving force, and can be a very dangerous force depending, where it's pointed and what its object is. And even its absence, or its the negative space where it should be, maybe that's part of what is powering all of this. And people actually, the one question that I sometimes am asked about this book that I never have an answer for is, if you ever did a sequel, would you go into the hole and stuff? Of course, no. How could you do that? I can't do it. Maybe somebody else can do it. I can't.
You could, but it's such an act of discipline, and I think of a badge of honor and respect for the work that you do. And I'm going to get to that. I'm going to touch on that in a question coming up. But about the absence or presence of love, and going back to what you first said about how Dakota, you find her to be, and how I find her to be, an honest character. I think there's something really honest and raw about the love or the relationship between Nick Nick and Dakota, even even if it's not self-deprecating, even if it's like deprecating, or even if it's not the pure interest, there's something honest in their ecstasy about the fun hole, and how it's an interaction between the three of them. Even there, yeah, there's like a very brutal sex scene. They're very their relationships, or their coming together, seems to be very fast and furious, and then these periods of downness, and that, I feel like you shone a light on perhaps maybe a part of life that maybe if we don't have words for it, or we don't even want to talk about, and what I think is great is the contrast when there's one point when towards the end, when Nick goes to Vanessa's place, and we see how her place is like, so it's like, oh, there's pictures of Randy and Vanessa in the frame. It's so normal.
Right?
There's almost like and I don't mean to criticize the world here, but there's like almost like a David Byrne. This is not my beautiful house.
It's right. It's very shocking. The normality of it is shocking, because it makes you, in some ways, that correlates to me. I was not necessarily thinking about this when I wrote it, but if you have ever spent any time with maybe a family member or someone dear to you who is very ill, and they are in the ICU, and you're going there a lot, and you're there every day, and when you leave the ICU, there's the decompression of the hospital itself, and then when you leave the hospital, Jesus Christ, there's the whole world, right? And it's like arterial plaque, like you have to keep going tighter and tighter and tighter, because all this normality is no longer the frame for your daily life is in that room. That's where it is. And you're waiting for the next doctor, you're waiting for the next whatever to come in and tell you what the rest of your life is going to be like, right? And all the things that are happening out there might as well be on the moon, right? It is become not your normal life anymore. Your normal life has taken a big swerve, and the emotional suffocation that can produce is intense, and I think it's part of the pain of this. In this book, although it is fun, and don't be afraid to read it because it's fun, but there is a lot of pain in this book, and people expressing it in different ways, and people trying to get over it, or pretend it's not there, or just refuse to grapple with it, right? Just
and I think that's what's appealing, whether you like him or hate him. That's what's appealing about Nick and Dakota, or as a listener says, or it's appealing about Nick Knack, is that they are they're suffering from a lot of things, but they're not suffering from at least that quote unquote normal emotional suffocation of this pressure to have all the pictures on the wall and have like the fake plants in the apartment. Like it was pretty enlightening to see Nick's reaction to seeing Vanessa's place, and trying to hold up Randy as an artist and put his mediocre artwork on the walls. There was something very, very astute and very subtle about that scene that was really. And
sometimes when you go into a situation like that, or any really extreme situation that lasts for more than 20 minutes, it does fundamentally readjust your own parameters, right? It resets all your presets, and you suddenly start thinking in ways that you didn't expect, or things that once had a lot of value for you, you say, but wait, that's just bullshit. I don't care about that anymore. That's meaningless to me. And some of those changes are like, what's that called, a depth charge, where things come up, but they don't come up right away. They just keep coming up and coming up. And I would think that, we follow Nicholas as far as you can go into the hole. But the people who were in the periphery, I would imagine their lives are changed in ways that would be difficult. Yeah, talk about trauma bonding. Who are you going to talk about this with, right? Either you were there or you weren't. Either you know, experienced this or you didn't.
Yeah, everyone has changed, or everyone is a light is shown on them from their proximity to the fun hole. And I should have wrote down the page number where at one point there is an absence of introspection or explanation of it, but there is one point where Nicholas starts thinking about, is it there it is. He starts thinking about himself as, he calls it a process, and I think the word he uses was a transcursion. He's like, we just I like to think of it as like a catalyst, but I think it's exactly what you're talking about. And I feel like maybe that's why I like this book so much, is I love stories where the supernatural or the speculative element is a catalyst. It is a transcursion. It isn't something to be conquered. It isn't something to be vanquished. Where it's something to be a catalyst.
And it can never be vanquished. I mean, that's just not something that's going to happen, right? You're not going to. It's just like you're not going to get over on the Grand Canyon. You know, it's going to be the Grand Canyon today. It's going to be the Grand Canyon when you're dead. It's just going to be the Grand Canyon.
Or it's wonderful to hear that you're like, no, there'll never be a sequel, or at least not a sequel where they go into the fun hole.
God, I can't imagine.
I'm so glad. Like, so I spoke about some of the what I call the pitfalls of genre. Like, thank God that this wasn't a story about, oh my God, the fun hole is coming out of the room. The fun hole's gonna take over the block. The fun hole's gonna take over the city. The fun hole's gonna take over the world. We must
stop it.
We must stop it and get Bruce Willis to come save us.
Nobody in this book tries to stop it.
Yeah,
that's just like not even an option, right? It's not. And I do think there is truth in the idea that sometimes things are so strange that you can't help but look at them, and it even overrides that kind of basic. The fear at the edge of the, what is it? There were social experiments done with babies that, but the idea was the parent would be on the other side of this glass top table or whatever and call the baby to come. And the baby would crawl across what looked like emptiness up to a certain age. And at that age, I don't know if that's when depth perception begins or what, but at that age, the baby would be like, not a chance.
I don't know those specific experiments, but I know there are specific ages and developments where they develop the concept of like zero. They develop the concept of object permanence, and that's just psychologically fascinating.
And that you can't force people past their own limits. You can drag them, you can torture them, but you can't force participation past what people will do. But people will go into this hole. People will do a lot of things. People will want to be close to things that they can't explain or can't control, but you cannot force them to participate because there's a barrier that just, and that's what the Venice character does after a certain point, is just pieces out and says, this is too weird for me. I don't need this much crazy in my life. And I always appreciated her for that, because that's normal. That is what a normal person would do after a certain point, would go, this is bizarre. It's like the person who leaves the party before the guns come out, right? They're like, okay, I'm going home. Goodbye. And they leave, right?
She definitely has a different voice. Yeah, I felt like the mask came off to stop the turntable. I wanted to ask you, have you, this is not, it might sound like a non sequitur, but it's not a non sequitur. There's a film that I think it's out in the theaters right now. Have you seen the film called Back Rooms?
No, and everybody tells me I must see it.
But
I have not seen it yet. I was just,
all right. Well,
I have seen almost nothing. I was finishing my new novel is called Shebang, and my entire world revolved around finishing Shebang and getting it in to the publisher. And so that has been it's still kind of my life, but things are easing up. So I will see
Well,
back.
the question I will have for the young man, I believe right even now he's only 20 years old. If I ever get a chance to interview him, I would just ask him, have you read the Cipher? I'm just so curious if he has, because there's certain favorable. It feels like if he hasn't read the book, that he picked up on a certain zeitgeist of some of the things that we're talking about. So it's a fun, and it's just amazing how it's such a phenomenon now. So hey, if you liked Backrooms, go get an extra copy of the Cipher. Get it for yourself. Get it as as a gift. Let's have a shout out. I know we mentioned it at the top of the hour, but let's have a shout out to Dead Ink.
Yes.
And their New Rune series. So this is they're a UK publisher. They did a great job in promoting the book. They did a great job in getting it in my hands. And the intention of the New Runes series is just to just celebrate and bring back into people's attention just classics of the genre. Now you mentioned that is Skin coming out also from New
Skin
Runes?
is coming out. I want to say July, but I could be lying. But it is like a little bit later this year, so pretty soon.
Okay, really looking forward to that.
And I am excited to see how people receive that book. Meerkat Press as well did a beautiful edition of Skin, and with an introduction by. And if I can see, if I was better at this, I would have a longer cord, and we could see things, but we can't because this cord is very short. But that's a book that I think has that same. It's hitting those same universal touchstones. Here is a couple who meet with the subtlety of two beautiful vehicles crashing into each other, and a reviewer had said when the book first came out that it reads like Greek tragedy because what happens to them is inherent in who they are, and they will always love each other, and they will never be able to make it work because of who they are, and because all the things that draw them together are also the things that pull them apart. And I was doing a reading for Dark Factory, the series that I did just before this new book.
And that's a Meerkat Press.
That is a Meerkat Press phenomenon. And if you go to darkfactory.club, you will be able to see the world that we created there. And Trisha Reeks at Meerkat Press, I give her a huge shout out because
it's a wonderful, and there's a lot of multimedia tie-ins. If I'm not mistaken,
it's fantastic.
It's a very immersive project and world that you can explore.
100%. And so I'm doing this event and pointed out that both Tess and Bibi are both queer artists, and they are unable to sustain the relationship. But Ari and Felix in Dark Factory are also queer artists, but yet they are able to sustain their relationship and later their marriage. And I'm speculating as to why this would be. And a friend and reader, Bradley, yelled from the back, because they can communicate.
Well, I guess that's one of those things. I guess if people had not to judge what's healthy or not, but if Woody had gone straight to the police, none of this would have happened. If we had healthy lines of communication with ourselves and those around us, well, then maybe this conflict or these books wouldn't have happened. But it would be a whole hell of a lot of an interesting literary world.
Well, I know, and you do get, pain is a fertile medium, and you can find, you can sift through the shards and find a lot of wisdom, but wear gloves, because it is the one thing that we were talking about this a little bit beforehand, the character for whom my own feelings kind of solidified is Nakota, who does get a lot of hate from people. And I have always felt that she's very honest. She never lies about what she wants. She's very straightforward about what she wants and means to get it. And her methods are dubious, to say the least. But I don't think, to me, she does not deserve all the hate that she gets, because it does take two to tango, and she's not dancing alone. So
This is, before we go, one of my last thoughts, and then I have a last question for you. So this is a book that I am going to be buying at the end of the year as gifts to the readers in my life. And you just kind of said the quote, like what I think in my Christmas and holiday cards will be like, "The Cipher" by Kathe Koja. Wear gloves. I feel like that's Merry Christmas, wear gloves. And then I wanted to ask you, we talked a lot about your reactions and changing reactions to the characters. Does the fun hole itself, or what is your reaction to the fun hole, and does the fun hole say anything or anything different to you today?
Well, that is an excellent question. I would respect it now in a way that I maybe did not the first time around. I would have a great respect, not only for the fact of it, but for whatever process brought it into being, which again, no one will ever know, no one will ever understand, but something is clearly happening. And one of my own great favorite writers who frighten me consistently is M.R. James. And I love M.R. James for doing shit like putting in completely things that should not exist. And then you just move on and you're like, the fuck?
Yeah.
What was that? But you're already moving on. But the existence of that bespeaks an entire universe of things that you don't know anything about. And you could walk right into one of them and walk around the corner and there it is. So
I feel like M.R. James would appreciate the fun hole, or at the very least appreciate it as it's functioning the same way an M.R. James ghost functions in his ghost stories. And I didn't think about that. That's absolutely
it's inexplicable. It's
brilliant.
That moment of dread when you meet the absolutely inexplicable, and there will not be any explanation. There will be nothing. If you get away with your life, you're getting off easy.
What I love about the fun hole is that it is literal. It is real. It is a thing that is physical in this book. Yet it also works so well as a metaphor for whatever you want it to be, without it being one-to-one, without it being on the nose. And I feel like that is no small task. Don't try it at home, or try it at home, but you have the measuring stick. So the fun hole, the Cipher, wear gloves. Take it. Kathe, thank you so much
for having
wonderful
me.
Conversation. I appreciate your time. I'm going to be looking forward to the next release. Where can people stay in touch with you until then?
People can find me on the socials. I am on Instagram. I am on Blue Sky. I am on Facebook. Again, darkfactory.club is full of fun goodies for you. And you can always email me through my own site, kathekoja.com.
All right. Be good to everyone. Be good to each other out there. Stay fun. Stay a safe distance from the fun hole until we speak
and
again.
wear gloves.
Thanks so much to Kathe Koja. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
Take care, everyone.